So let's talk about Fallout Season 2, Episode 6. Yes, we're starting with Episode 6. So I didn't have internet and all of this, so that kind of set me back a bit. And I've been catching up with Fallout and a ton of other shows, which I do have some more shows I want to talk about pretty soon. But we are on Episode 6 now, where we pretty much saw that Lucy and Cooper have definitely hit a boiling point at the end of Episode 5. As we know, they were on the search for Hank, and ultimately Lucy felt that she couldn't trust Cooper no more because he was going to choose to take her to her dad pretty much as a offering in order for his family to be okay. And she decided, you know what? No. She threw him out the window and he got impaled into a pole, and that's where we leave Coop. So this episode had a lot of things though that really set in motion a finale in a way I didn't expect it. Really interesting stuff here. We'll be covering each episode now until the finale, which is like 3 or 4 episodes left, but we will have a theory video of what's to come. That will come out tomorrow for episode 7, so on and so forth. Let's get into Fallout Season 2, what exactly we saw in this episode, and what comes next. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We are on the road to 50,000 subscribers, less than about 6,000 to go, I believe, at this point. So let's talk about what happened this episode. So pretty much throughout the whole entirety of the Fallout shows in Season 1 and 2, up until this point, we were led to believe that Barb was pretty much somebody who didn't give a damn about anybody, right? Cooper, for the longest, could not believe that his wife would be okay with killing millions, if not billions, of people through nuking everything. Come to find out in this episode that she actually was trying to make a change. That change ultimately wasn't going to be easy, and she was ultimately pushed back to not make that change. And now we know that things are a little bit more darker than what we expected it to be, right? Because indeed, Wilsick here had ultimately gone to Barb and said, don't do this. It's not going to end good. We are pretty much going to be people that can be like interchanged. They don't care about us or your family, so don't do this. And Barb doesn't do it because of this. Coop, on the other hand, is not really able to accept this answer, and he still needs answers. So we see him even drug Hank in the past, ultimately take him to the hotel room to try and retrieve the cold fusion from the little like thing that Hank is holding around, because Hank is the most trustworthy, right? Turns out there isn't a cold fusion in there, but there is a contraption like a gun with a needle in it that Coop has no idea what this is about until Barb steps in, injects it into Hank's neck, and she ultimately retrieves the cold fusion from Hank. Ultimately, they couldn't trust the cold fusion just to be in a vial, in a safe, or in a suitcase or anything like that, right? They had to have it somewhere where nobody would least expect it, and that was inside of Hank. So Hank's ultimately a lackey here that is like really determined to be the one that everybody sees as a good fit to continue on with whatever Robco, Vault-Tec, or now maybe even the Enclave, which we'll talk about in a bit. And speaking of Hank, in the present time, we see that Hank, of course, took Lucy in the previous episode. He is showcasing to Lucy how the automated man is just the best invention there can be now, as he showcases that people are now in line. People that were in the surface, that were in the wasteland, that were barbaric, killers, all of these things can now coexist together and ultimately be a good society. He says that war never changes. So we've seen people fight for money in the past, fight for power. Now they're even fighting for bottle caps. Can they ever change? Probably not. But with the automated man, they can, he says. Lucy, of course, does not see this as a vile way to continue with the future by having the people be enslaved, pretty much brainwashed. She decides to take her father into custody to face justice. All of the other people that are now on the automated man system see this, and then we see Lucy given a choice, as we see that she now has to pretty much decide if she's going to let these two wastelanders fight it out into the death, or is she going to press the button so they become part of the automated man system, and thus they cooperate together. This leaves Lucy with a choice, and ultimately after a barbaric fight, she decides to make them both automated man people. And now it's going to be interesting to see how Lucy tries to sort of decipher what she's just done. On the other side of things, we have the ghoul Cooper, who is now impaled, ultimately try to get himself unimpaled, but is not able to do so. That is until a mysterious figure comes to save him, and this is actually a super mutant that comes through and decides to tell him that he needs him on his side. The ghouls and the mutants and all of the abominations need to go and fight, and he mentions the word the Enclave, which we've already heard about in season 1, and of course a big thing in the show is that they are this shadowy figure that ultimately could be responsible for setting the nukes, which we'll talk about in the theories tomorrow. But we see that Cooper decides to not be a part of the mutants' whole ordeal here. He doesn't want to be friends with them. So the mutant's just like, all right, you're on your own, buddy. But the mutant does help him come back to life with uranium and all of that. And we see that this is when Thaddeus and Max ultimately come face to face with the ghoul once again. They both have the cold fusion now. The ghoul's after the cold fusion. Everybody wants the cold fusion. It is cold fusion galore. Robert House is nowhere to be seen just yet, but I think he will make an appearance in the present time in some way. And we ultimately now know that this is going to be a pretty much race to the end, as we are going to find out what exactly is going to happen here. Unlikely factions forming left and right, and it is just one of those moments in the show where I am just getting so excited. I thought this season is incredible. I've been loving the things in the vaults as well. We see that Betty's ultimately losing control of her vault. We know that Lucy's brother's out there with the other dwellers. It is just turning into a very climatic ending, and I am 100% on board to see where we go with this. But I thought the inclusion of the super mutants here really sets up a great next season, because I'm pretty sure that's where we're going to see more of this war finally happen. The Enclave being presented more as probably the big bad and maybe the ones responsible for everything, including maybe owning Vault-Tec at some point as well. I think the Enclave are going to be the ones that are setting up the nukes and all of that, but who exactly is the mastermind or the sole person behind Vault-Tec, the Enclave, that is going to set in motion the nukes going off? As Robert House himself says, he doesn't even know who this is, and that irks him. And that's where we pretty much leave the final episode here, episode 6. Well, not the final episode, but the newest final episode. Not the final episode of the season. I don't even make sense, y'all. But that's where we leave off here. Max and Thaddeus and the ghoul teaming up together. They have the cold fusion. The Brotherhood's probably going to come through and try to figure out what's going on as well. We have Lucy and her father going through a sort of battle of philosophy of how exactly do you achieve peace. Is it through free will, or is it through having like an authoritarian type of vibe going on, right? And then we have the vaults ultimately going into chaos. Are they turning everybody in those vaults into super mutants? It kind of seems like it, as we've seen in the previous episodes, as Lucy's brother came to find out. And it seems that we are definitely getting some answers in the next episode. As in the preview, we see that we are going to maybe have Hank finally speak as to what exactly was the purpose of these vaults. Were they to make slaves, mutants, experiments, or what is it? And I'm excited. This episode was great. On a side note, however, and a big one here, I'm worried about Woody. As you know, he is missing, and he was getting onto what exactly was going on in these vaults. And I don't think it's going to end good for Woody. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited. I really love how we got to see Cooper really go through everything that happened in the past, realize that Barb was probably trying to do the right thing. She ultimately was in a corner, couldn't do much. And so she had her hand forced into doing what she did, and it made us see Barb in a different light, I think, as well. Also, Hank and Lucy, this is an interesting predicament, because I think Lucy does want to do good. She doesn't like the chaos of the wasteland, all of that, but I don't think she likes what her father's trying to do with the automated man either. And so it sets her in a very like weird like stance of, do you uphold these values, but at what cost do you uphold these values of keeping peace, of keeping a unity, by people not being really themselves anymore? Or do you just let everything continue as it is with the barbarism that goes on in the wasteland? And I'm excited to see how Lucy's going to be able to sort of juggle these different ideas that are presented to her as well. Max and Thaddeus also breaking away from the Brotherhood. Max, who seemed to have found his footing at the beginning of the season with the Brotherhood, ultimately has completely lost it all and is now trying to figure out where does he go from here. And, you know, he is definitely looking for Lucy, as he says, as he feels she's the only one that can do the right thing. But is she really now? I feel like Lucy's a bit compromised and in her feelings about what exactly is the right move to do now, because does she follow her father, or does she let the cold fusion fall into the wrong hands, right? So next episode's really setting up a ton. I'm excited to see where we go. Very curious about the Enclave, who I think are going to be set up a little bit more in this episode. I think by the end of the season, we're going to figure out they are the big bad, but who exactly is running the show for the Enclave is going to be the big sort of like reveal twist, if you will, Could it be Hank? Could it be someone else? Is it Robert House all of this time? We will see. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And if you're excited for episode 7, stay tuned. Tomorrow we will have our theories on what is coming next, and you do not want to miss that. On the road to 50,000 subscribers, let's get to it. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay positive.